So I was thinking recently, out of all the kayak fishing accessories that I own, which ones do I use every frickin' time on my kayak that did not come stock with the boat? And so let's go ahead and skip all the nonsense. Let's hop into number one. Recently, I almost lost my phone to the center console. I got a pedal drive up here. And once you take the top off, pull the motor up, there's a giant hole in the middle of your boat. And through a weird series of events, I almost dropped my phone down that center console. And if it wasn't for my Rogue phone tether, this thing would be fried. And so these things are only like 22 bucks on Amazon. You check them out at roguefishing.co. I like these, however, there's like a downside. These little things, they go around the outside of your phone. Sometimes they slip off, you just put them back on. I was looking at the quad lock, but I didn't see any type of tether system that they had for the quad lock. I like it because you can just kind of click it into the back of your phone and you don't have all these rubber things everywhere. But I reached out to them via Instagram. I've yet to hear back yet to see if they have one of those. I did not see one on their website. All right, second accessory I use every single time is this guy right here. This is the Omega Pro Yak Attack rod holders. And I actually sit mine right here. I used to have it up on my front rail guides, but it's kind of got in the way. I like to land fish up here, and this is kind of, it's great if you're trolling. However, now I put it like right off to my back right on my Bonafide P127. It fits nicely here. Once I catch a fish, I can kind of move it off to the right, and it's really nice. These things only run like 40 bucks. They're built like a freaking battleship, and I highly recommend these if you like trolling. I can't tell you how many times I've caught fish going from point A to point B. Say it's on the other side of the lake, I'm going over deep water. I'll throw a deep diving crank, maybe a shallow crank, spinner bait, and we'll pick up a lot of fish along the way. I just picked up a 7.5 pound catfish on a Spro Little John. Absolutely nailed it. Here, I got the video of that, I'll show you there. But these things, 40 bucks, really nice to have. All right, number three. All right, the third kayak fishing accessory, and this is one of the first things I do whenever I purchase a new kayak, is I create a kayak crate with rod holders, and I do it DIY because I believe a lot of the options out there are just too expensive to buy, and I like working with my hands. I have a lot of tools, and so it's something I enjoy doing. And so really what it is, just two milk crates kind of put on top, we create a lid, we got some marine grade bungee cords to create like a mesh top on it. I use some PVC or ABS to create the rod holders, and really what you end up getting with those rod holders is once you're done, there's no higher quality rod holder out there that you can make, because these things are super thick, really nice. So if you're interested in making one of those for your new fishing kayak, I have two videos on it, a 1.0 and a 2.0. I recommend watching the 2.0 because they just continue to get better as I use them for a season, start thinking through some of the design. And so the 2.0 is going to be the upgraded version. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Accessory number 4. One of the first things I do when I buy a new fishing kayak is I put on a keel guard, right? Because polyethylene plastic, when you set it down or accidentally rub it against the plastic, some of those boat ramps are like cheese graters. It is going to slowly, over time, just start scraping away that plastic. Now, the design of the kayak has a lot more plastic down there than usual. However, if you go a whole season, you're like, oh, you just never get around to putting one of those keel guards on, you're really going to have a problem on your hands. Especially if you buy a cheaper kayak, that plastic's not going to be as thick, and you're just going to compromise the hull. So for like 20, 25 bucks, you can put on a Kydex keel guard. I got two videos on this as well. I have a 1.0, which I use a certain type of adhesive, and then a 2.0, which I use a different type of adhesive. So I'll throw those videos in the description below. So far, I've had one of them on for 2 seasons, the other one for a full season, and absolutely no problem at all. And here's another thing to think of, like eventually, likely, you're going to be upgrading your fishing kayak, right? I don't know about you, but I've bought both of my fishing kayaks. I don't purchase them MSRP. I get them off Facebook Marketplace. And what I look for from a used fishing kayak is clues that the owner took care of it. And one of the ways I know that an owner really took care of it is that they're going to have a keel guard on. And if they don't, it just kind of signifies, one of the signals, and I've done some videos on kind of when you buy a fishing kayak, what to look out for when you buy it used. But just one of those indicators that tells me that the owner really cared for this thing, which gives me all the warm fuzzies whenever I'm going to purchase it. All right, let's move on. Fifth accessory, and I usually do this, and I've done it to all my fishing kayaks except for my Sun Dolphin because it doesn't have a seat, is I put in 3D printed seat risers. And I put seat risers on my fishing kayak for like 4 reasons. One, the first reason is it's gonna allow me to get up and down easier, right? Because I'm not as close to the bottom of my kayak. And being that I get up and I stand a lot when I fish, that's helpful. I believe it puts me in a better pedal position. So I have a pedal drive kayak, I got a Propel 701 series in front of me. And I just like kind of pushing down on it. And so I like the seat positioning better. Also on my Native Slayer Propel 10, what I ended up doing is that, being that the seat was so low, I would drop into it and I actually cracked my kayak because I was dropping so far. So being up a little bit further will take some of that stress off of the plastic of your kayak so you don't accidentally crack it. And the fourth reason is it just gives me a better line of sight, right? And so I got some, polarized optics. And so when I'm really far down and closer to the water, you can just see less, right? I'm gonna see less rocks, I'm gonna see less outlines of fish, I'm going to see less weed lines. And so by having the 3D printed seat risers allows me to have a better line of sight and really just gives me more information and helps me become a better angler because I can actually see more and deduce more. Also keep in mind, these fishing kayaks were not designed with seat risers in mind. So anytime you go higher on a kayak, it's going to be less stable. So if you have poor balance, might not be the right choice for you, but if you have pretty good balance, obviously that is kind of dealer's choice on that. So I'll let you be deciding factor whether or not you want 3D printed seat risers. I get my 3D printed seat risers from my man over at 3dyak.com. Go over there, tell him Darren sent you. Greg will take care of you. All right, let's move on to number 6. A little bit about me. I have like oppositional defiance disorder. I think that's how you say that. Essentially, if you tell me to do something, I automatically want to do the opposite because you like ordered me to do it. I know it's bad. But for the longest time, I had so many people who were like, Darren, you gotta get a net, you gotta get a net, you gotta get a net. And there was just something about like reaching over the side of the kayak and like just lipping a bass and pulling it up. I don't know, just absolutely loved it. But I started getting into tournament fishing a little bit. And when you lose a couple fish at the side of your kayak and you're thinking to yourself, well, I could have landed those monsters if I had a net. Well, you start rethinking the net a little bit. And so eventually I succumbed. I remember I lost one fish at the net and literally I was on my boat ordering this particular net in general. This is the Yak Attack leverage net. This thing's freaking awesome. Supports down here so you can fight the fish with your left hand, kind of reach this down. Now there's 2 different net sizes. This is the thin one, which works just fine. They got a like fatter one, but just gonna get in my way. And when I'm done with it, it kind of flips in half, so I don't have this giant net sticking over my back over here, which can just, a lot of times I can just get tangled up in. It's rubberized, which is nice. If you have a lot of treble hooks, you're not gonna get stuck in there. And so yes, a little bit expensive, but if you're fishing a whole lot and you're getting into tournament fishing, if you want a really quality net, the Yak Attack leverage net, last time I checked, they run like 90 bucks, but it's something that I use, I use just about every single time. Usually if it's a bass over 3, 4, or 5 pounds, I'm definitely getting that out. So I guess I don't use it every single time because I don't catch those size bass every single time I go out. But nonetheless, you get the point. Don't lose big bass at the boat. Get yourself a net. But ask yourself this question: how much would you pay to land that 5, 6, 7 pound bass that you may have not otherwise been able to catch because it broke you off at the boat? All right, let's move on. All right, so the next accessory that I have for you, and you really got to be into like kayak fishing to really drop money on this guy. And it's how you get your kayak to and from the water. And there's like 4 different types of kayak carts out there. And I did a video on this, you can check it out. 4 different types of kayak carts and a warning on one of them. So I'll throw that video in the description below. If you're independently wealthy or you love fishing and kayak fishing is like your hobby and you invest all your money into it, the native sidekicks with the pneumatic wheels are freaking sweet. I can't tell you, I would never buy another kayak cart out there because these things are attached to your boat. And so you just go from your trailer or your cart or however you do it, you wheel it down to the water, you flip them up, and they're on my kayak right now. They're just flipped up. So I don't have to run things back to my truck. So they used to be like 280 bucks, but recently I just checked and they're like $300. Like everything else, everything's going up in price. Some of you guys are like, bro, my fishing kayak doesn't even cost $300, and that's fine. This is for those who are like in it to win it, love kayak fishing. You've done it a few times. You're like, hey, I'm going to continue to do this. I really want to invest in it. Check out the native sidekicks, and I promise you, you're going to love them. All right, so the next kayak fishing accessory I have for you is my NRS Raku, which is my PFD. Now, I didn't used to wear a PFD. If you were to go back at like early videos, you would see me not wearing them because in Ohio, you are not required by law to wear a PFD. However, I've come to my senses because my logic was bad, right? I thought to myself, I'm a really great swimmer. I swam across Lake Michigan back in 2011. I swam 50.6 nonstop miles. I can swim. The problem with that, you don't need a life jacket when you swim. You need it when you can't. And so I wear one now and actually have grown to love it, right? It has all these pockets. I have my safety knife up here, my pliers, my phone, my lighter, everything's on me. So you might be looking at it like it looks just like the Chinook or the Chinook for the women out there. It is, except for one difference, the flotation on the back. And this is why I recommend it for my #1 PFD for pedal kayaks, because on the Chinook or Chinook, all the flotation is up here on a high back float. So if you're leaning back like you do on a pedal drive, sometimes that can like bunch up if you like really want to lean back and it starts pressing against your neck, which is a pain in the butt. On the Raku, the flotation is spread out all along the back. And so I don't have that issue at all. And I really, really like it. So those are the accessories I use every single time on my fishing kayak. However, there are some accessories on my kayak that I don't use every time, but they're just as important. You can check that video out right here. Life-saving gear that should be on your fishing kayak. There you go. Thanks guys for watching. See ya.